Anita signed her and I up for a pub crawl in Ketchikan. Anita's not a beer drinker, so she later let Ian know that he was going to be Anita for the day. There was some discussion about whether he or I was going to be Anita, but I assured him that I would make a better James than he would. Everyone met on the dock and was introduced to our tour guide, Hamish. Hamish announced that the pub crawl would consist of 3 bars. The excursion fee covered 1 beer at each of the 3 bars. We could have more beer, but they would be on us. He told us the pub crawl would last for about an hour and a half. He also told us that the record for the pub crawl was 17 beers. I was thinking there was no way I could drink 17 beers in an hour and a half. We did a fairly short walk to our first stop, the 49er liquor store and bar. Hamish got us to the bar and got everyone their first beer. That was when I saw that we're not dealing with a measly 12-ounce bottle or can. It was more like a 22-ounce glass. 17 beers in an hour and a half just got a little bit more out of reach, in my opinion. Hamish started talking, trashing both Alaskans and Canadians, and I'm thinking that the locals are going to start kicking the shit out of our tour guide from the boat in a short order. One of the guys at the bar shouted an insult to Hamish, using his name, and he quickly replied with a suggestion that the guy fornicate with himself. That was when I finally realized that Hamish didn't arrive on the boat with us tourists. He's a local. I felt a bit better about the odds of him not getting his ass kicked. Hamish begins telling us a story about the working girls and the history of Ketchikan, and that they had a large part to play in the growing population of Ketchikan. I'm not saying they were responsible for a population boom, just the fact that gold miners brought their gold to Ketchikan and spent it with the working girls. There was a famous madam by the name of Dolly that had a place on Creek Street. She bought her house for $800 in 1920 and paid it off in 2 weeks. Hamish also talked about his grandfather not wanting to share any information about whether or not he had sampled the fare from the ladies. After our first beer, we headed to the Moose Lodge to have another beer. Hamish continued to tell us more about the working ladies of the olden days. Apparently Dolly was still working into her 70s. I bought a PDF about Dolly on Amazon for $5. It had a lot of information about early Ketchikan in it, and I'll put a link to the book in the video description. It said that she charged $3 per trick and wouldn't close the door to her house until she'd made $75 or $100 that night. At $3 each, that's 25 to 33 tricks per night. Brings the title Working Girl to another level. Hamish also talked about how they later made prostitution illegal in Ketchikan because the next big boom after the gold rush was the lumber rush. The lumberjacks didn't want to leave town where the working girls were to go back out in the wilderness to cut down trees, so they made prostitution illegal. The book I mentioned also detailed prohibition at the time of the brothels and how they hid liquor from law enforcement that wasn't being paid to look the other way. Apparently shots for 50 cents each, which may have lowered the number of tricks turned before Dolly would close the door for the night. After the second beer, we headed to the Arctic bar for our third beer. Walking up to the bar, they had a carving of the front half of 2 bears engaged in coitus, for the Big Bang Theory fans out there. When you walk into the bar, there's a carving of the back half of the male bear, complete with the dangly bits, the genitalia. The entire pub crawl was a ton of fun, despite the fact that I only had 3 giant beers and a duck fart shot that tasted slightly better than what I'm assuming diesel fuel tastes like. I did buy one of the shirts for sale at the bar, and I have proof. If you end up in Ketchikan, whether through a cruise or not, the pub crawl is worth it, in my opinion. Met some very funny people that we'd been on the boat with for almost a week and had never seen. But if you're on a pub crawl together, you obviously have similar interests. I got to talk with Phil and Deb. They had been on the whale watching boat with us. Deb and some of the others were sharing whale breach photos with each other. Phil had a hilarious t-shirt on, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it said. I'll have to look back through the whale watching video to see if I actually got him on film.